to welcome everyone to this live show, and for all you future watchers of this video, thank you for downloading, and thank you for your questions. Please, any questions you have about Taino history, Taino stories, whatever, you can please put it in the comments, and I will definitely answer you back. This is I used to have the format of Taino Radio, which I still do. I'm working on some future shows, but I want to do some video live videos on Fridays, 10:30, sometimes 11 p.m. Eastern time. And whenever you watch this video, please comment. I'll be watching out for that. YouTube lets me know who comments, and whatever questions you have. If you don't want to write any comments, want to be anonymous, you can write me at Taino funhouse@gmail.com, and I will gladly answer any questions. If you have any suggestions on future shows, I will definitely do that. So it's very important right now to talk about. Wait, hold on a second. Hey Patricia, how you doing? Hello. How's everything? Thank you for tuning in. You're the first one. Because you're the first listener right now, I want you to, if you want, totally optional, you can send me your name and address, or if you have a PO box, whatever, um, at Taino Funhouse at gmail.com, and I will gladly send you a necklace from myself as a gift for being the number one person right here in this live show. And thank you once again to Patricia and all you listeners out there. Oh, there's Jonathan. How you doing, Jonathan? Man, I hope you're well. Since you're number two, I'll send you a necklace as well. Just give me your name and address, and I will send you that. I got some necklaces that I made. They kind of psychedelic necklaces that I will definitely. Oh, there's number three. All right. Guess what? This is Ren Anthony or Re Anthony. Once again, you three people, send me your address and name at Taino Funhouse at gmail.com, and I'll send you some necklaces that I recently made. They're kind of psychedelic and they're cool. And I'll send them to you, okay? The top three, there you go. So right now I'm going to talk about something kind of cool, Taino history. And on the advertisement I put 900 Common Era. The people who are the archaeologists, anthropologists, historians, they kind of trace Taino history to the 900s Common Era. Some say 1000 Common Era, up until 1492 during the invasion. But as we know through certain semi works and pottery, that the culture did not die in 1492. It continued on, and then it just evolved. Even though the Taino as we know it, our ancestors, they mix either through the rapes or forced marriages or so on. The mixing did take place after 1492, but it did not stop Taino culture. I just want to mention that to you guys. It did not stop. It continued on. It evolved. So in the future shows, I'm going to get into that, okay? And how up until right now, 2024, it still continues to evolve. And our ancestors, believe it or not, what we know as Taino, 900 or 1000 Common Era, it exploded in the islands, namely the what we know as Borinquen, Quisqueya, and that's what historians call the classic Taino, where the culture just blew up, and then you have the other tribe, other Taino, Yucayeques from the west, which is Jamaica, Cuba, and then out in the east you have the what we call the Virgin Islands now, the Bahamas and so on. But you can't forget Florida, Bimini. We have some tribal people there, also from South America and Guyana, the Arawak people. Do it grip though. Interesting. That's weird. Rizzy Gobbler. So I kind of doing a lot of stuff out there, but I'm gonna break it all down little by little in future shows. So here's the thing: 900, 1000 Common Era. The archaeologists that study our culture, basically they saw the pottery, they saw the works of art, as they call it. For us, these are spiritual tools that we use. What people call pottery, or spatulas used for the Cahoba ceremony. Um, you name it. Necklaces. They saw a dramatic change, a shifting, as they call it, and that shift they call classic Taino, compared to the, say, the solidoids. In future shows, I'm gonna break it down. So I'm starting 900 CE. I'm gonna go backwards in time with the solidoids. Who a lot of people, if you read your books, they call pre-Taino people, and then we're gonna go back 7,000 years, believe it or not. So just to give you a sneak peek, 7,000 years ago, you have the first migrations from Central America, and those people that came from Central America, like the Yucatan, also El Salvador, what we call now Guatemala. These are the people, the descendants of those that came from way up north. Okay, but then we also had migrations that came from the south, South America, what we call the Arawakos, right? The Arawaks. And these were the tribes that came from Venezuela, what we call Venezuela now, Colombia. And also we had other migrations from Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador. So you got a lot of migrations. Don't forget Florida, also from North America. And they were all colliding in these beautiful islands we call Borinquen, Quisqueya, and all these different tribes brought their unique traditional languages, traditional foods, meals. The Arawakans from the South America brought their seeds, what we know as quenepa, what we know as yuca, what we know as batata from the Andean mountains, and of course the, I guess, what we call pasteles, or the tamales came from Mexico down. And this was just a beautiful, a tremendous intermixing of cultures, or do you call it admixture of cultures? And it was just amazing. Now, the late great Dr. Yare Melendez, she had mentioned the bottleneck theory, which you have the South American tribes hip hopping, is that a word? Well, hip hop, well, island hopping from the starting from Guyana. Well, the Orinoco River, which is in Venezuela. Then you got Guyana, and then they started going island to island to island to island to island until they reached Puerto Rico, or Borinquen. And there, the people was there like a good 1,000 years, and then that Taino culture exploded. And what happened was that explosion meant, what did it mean, that explosion? It meant, it was a firecracker. Um, what indigenous peoples practiced for thousands of years, like the celluloid pottery, it just took off. Different motifs. The pottery wasn't as great, wasn't as strong as in prior indigenous peoples that migrated up to the islands, but the artwork was tremendous. I guess if you compare it now, it was like contemporary art or modern art from um, damn, I can't think now. From your Renaissance period to the modern era, contemporary art. That's right, the Taino Big Bang. Yeah. So, how the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean, how they did their art was always the same. And in future shows, I want to show you, future videos, I want to show you the different artworks. And then in 900, 1000, it just blew up. It was more creative in the sense of it was outside the box. Okay, outside the box. And that's how the archaeologists know that that's Taino art compared to Saladoid art. And guess what? It was the women that did most of all the work, all the art, like the do holes, the seats, the semis, and so on. Those are the women that did that. Because the men, they were fishing, they were hunting. Also, they did the politics, the warfares, if intertribal discussions or disagreements. Um, yeah, so the women were busy with the building the bohíos, teaching the children, the clothing, and so on. So the women were very, very busy, and also the men. The children were very busy. The children used to hunt the parrots, both as pets and for food, the lizards, and so on. Sounds like I'm rambling right now, but basically, in future shows, I'm going to break down that structure. We did have a structure, a political structure. We had a social structure. We had a spiritual structure, and so on. But I just want you to keep this in your mind: 900 to 1,000 Common Era. The culture just exploded. As Jonathan said, it was a big bang. It was related to the art, social structure, okay, political structure, and so on. I promise you, on future shows and also future videos, I've been researching this like crazy, trying to get the references. But I'm also gonna add our references. So we're not. So I'm not gonna so much rely on American or European scholars, but our own experiences. What do we say about our history from the elders, from our visions, and so on? But check this out. Before we really get into 900 to 1,000 Common Era, let's go back in time. In the late 1400s, 1500s, Ramon Pane, who was sanctioned by Columbus to figure out our spirituality, they wrote certain documentation about our stories, our oral traditions. So today I want to start with that. Okay? So you guys are writing notes. If you know about these stories, listen carefully, maybe get some more insights. Okay? The very first story that Ramon Pane, I shouldn't say it's not the first story. A lot of these stories are all mixed up, and people have different theories of the order. But I'm just going to throw it out here today. I want you to listen to it because that's where our history began, or our oral history began. And we don't know who shared this. There were probably caciques and bejiques. Most definitely there were caciques because Bane had a direct link to these caciques through Columbus. And and of course Ramon Panes, his end game was to convert the our ancestors to Christianity. But Columbus was interested in what our stories were related to spirituality, our worldview, so he could better divide us and he can enslave us. Remember, if you learn a person's worldview, especially their religion or their spirituality, you can do a lot of damage. And that's what Columbus tried to do. But we persevere, we're still here, right? We're still here. So this is what happened. Check this out. The story that we heard, that the Europeans heard and wrote down, goes a little like this. There was a man named Yaya. Now, this Yaya name was translated to Spirit of Spirits. And Yaya had a son, Yayaed, which means son of Yaya. Now, for some reason, according to the story, Yayaed was very rebellious. So he challenged the authority of Yaya, which got him in trouble. So he was banished from the village. And this Yayaed was banished for 4 months. But because Yayaed was such a rebel, right? He challenged the authority. He came back before the 3 months was up. 4 months of banishment was up. Again, a true rebel, right? Why do I wait 4 months? Let me come back before. Now this upset Yaya so much that he killed his son, Yayael. And what happened? Yayael was killed and his bones were put in the gore. Okay, and this gore was hung on top of the bohío. So you can imagine, I should say a cane. right? It was a pole in the middle, and then they will put the gore, and they put the bones there. Now, according to the story, after many years, let me just throw a name. Let me just throw a statistic. Say 1,000 years later, Yahya felt very sad. He was mourning the death of his son. Probably felt regret. So he told his wife. He asked his wife to bring down the gore, and guess what happened? Woo! When they looked at the gore, it was filled with water and fish. Now, this made them very happy. So they started eating the fish. Thus, this story ended right there. I want you to take notes on this, okay? If you have any questions, okay? I'm just going to throw out the story. I'm not going to do any interpretations. There's a great book. Antonio Arroyo Stevens, he wrote a book back in the 80s called The Cave of the Jagua. Don't get upset because in his preface, he said the Tainos don't exist anymore. But don't get worried. Don't get upset. Just look beyond that, okay? Look at the stories. So, and he has great interpretation. He used comparative religions. But in this one story, it doesn't end there. Oh, it froze. Can you hear me, guys? Let me see something here. All right, let me get. Oh, wow. I think the Wi Fi. Hold on, guys. I think the Wi Fi froze. Damn. Sorry about that. Can you guys see me now? Can you guys see me? The Wi-Fi kind of messed. Thank you, Jonathan, for letting me know. Can you guys hear me now? You guys are good? It's not frozen? Frozen in time. All right, well, let me continue. I hope YouTube will fix it. All right, cool. Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry about that. So basically, that story did not end there. And now, this is my interpretation of the order of the stories. So guess what happened? Yaya went to his conucos, which in Taino means the farm. And in the conucos, he was chilling for the day, doing his yuca farming. And then what happened was there was a woman, Itiba Kahubaba, the bloody age woman, according to these linguists. And she was giving birth to 4 sons. But unfortunately, she died after giving birth to the first son. And she was able to name the first son as Deminan, Caracaracol, the scabby one. Caracaracol means the scabby one. So Deminan was the first one to be born. And there were 3 other brothers that were born. Since Itiba Kahubaba died, they were given no names. So only the first son was given a name. And guess what happened? This is kind of cool. It seems like someone helped her. What does scabby mean? Cara cara cor, cara cara, which is like when you have scabs in your hands. Just give you a sneak peek. It was probably related to some kind of sexual disease. When you get these warts and scabs. So cara cara cor. So guess what? So it seems like someone helped her to take the other babies out. So you're looking at your first cesarean birth, right? So she died. In the Dominican Republic, Ischia, they use a lot of her art compared to like Boninquen, where you use Atabe. But check this out. So they were born, and miraculously they were able to talk. They were able to walk. Light speed, right? These are super beings. These are spiritual beings. And then what happened was, I'm getting excited here. So the 4 kids, miraculously, they were like adults. Now, like all babies, like all children, all kids, they're hungry. They're looking for food, man. So guess what? They started smelling food, and they went into a cane, which is the structure where the cacique lives, compared to a bohio. And guess what happened? They found a gourd that was hanging on top of the rafters of this cane, and nobody was there. So like any kid, hey man, I gotta get some food. So the three brothers piled on one another. Deminon climbed up. He took the gourd down, and guess what they found? You got it. They found fish, and they started eating the fish. And as they started enjoying that fish, the good old Caribbean fish, right? I assume they barbecued it in a cool traditional way. It was probably the first barbecue, right? That's right. Deminon gets that credit. I'm just guessing. But check this out. They heard someone coming. And guess who it was? It was Yaya. That's right. So now they're getting scared. They're like, uh-oh, here comes Yaya, the ultimate spirit of spirit, the ultimate chief. So they got nervous. And again, the brothers pile up one another like a ladder. And so Deminon climbs up. And just when Yaya was coming in, they put the gore back, but it wasn't really fastened too well. It wasn't tied too well. And then all of a sudden, the gore fell, and it broke. And all this water comes out. All these fish come out. And guess what? That's the origins of the ocean. It's interesting, right? The origins of the ocean. This is our history. This is our oral history that the Spanish are writing down, like Ramon Panet. And guess what happened? Whoa, the story doesn't end there. So miraculously, the four brothers, they get on a canoe. I'm adding this. They get in the canoe in the ocean, and they're going downstream, probably running from Yaya, and he's probably all upset, like, yo, that was my son. What are they doing? And then I'm doing a little artistic, creative license here. And then what happened was they reached a home of another elder, and his name was Baya Manako. And Baya Manako can be translated the old man, the old grandfather. Okay? And then Deminon and his brothers yelled out, Ahia Karakoed! Ahia Karakoed! Which means we know our grandfather. Ahia Karakoed! We know our grandfather. Now, what happened was, according to the story, Baya Manako was cooking cassava bread, okay, and I guess that upset him because they interrupted him, and Deminon, I guess these kids, they're probably teenagers, man. At this point, they're growing really fast, and they wanted food, so they asked for well, I guess they demanded some cassava bread from their grandfather, right? Teenagers don't ask; they just like, hey, man. So that got Baya Manako very angry, the grandfather. So what happened was, instead of giving them cassava bread, he took his thumb probably, and he shot some spittle or snot that came right out the nose, and it hit Deminon right in his back. Boom. Which caused tremendous swelling. Okay? Now, this concerned his brothers because they never saw him in such pain. And he was in a lot of pain. According to the story, he was almost close to death. So one of the brothers took out an axe. Okay? And an axe, according to the story, is called the sacred manaya. The sacred axe. And they started chopping away at the ulcer that was on Deminon's back. Pa, pa, pa. You just imagine, right? And all of a sudden, the ulcer broke apart, and out came a female turtle. Okay? And then this female turtle, they took care of her, they loved her, they built a home for her, and from her, children were born. Story doesn't stop there. So you got the four brothers, turtle woman, turtle mother, gives birth. And who does she give birth to? You got it. human beings. But the story doesn't end there. Check this out. Thousands of years pass, and now we're looking at a cave called Casibahagua in Ayauna. And Casibahagua, according to the story, is where the Taino, the indigenous people, the ancestors of the Taino lived. Okay, these are the ancestors, the old original peoples, right? First Nations people. And they were in the cave called Casibahagua. And there was another cave, Ayauna, and those were the people that weren't the descendants of the Taino. They were the others. Okay? Now, there was a character. He was kind of a cool character. His name was, oh my God, Mako Kael. Mako Kael had a special power. He couldn't blink. So his eyes were always staring. You know, he didn't blink. He didn't close his eyes. Right now, when you go to caves in Borinquen, Quisqueya, Jamaica, Cuba, Bahamas, some of the Virgin Islands, you will always find Mako Kael, a drawing of a face, and two eyes, and a mouth in the entrance of the cave. That's Mako Kael. He of the eyes that do not blink. Now, according to the story, his job was to make sure that the ancestors of the Taino would come into the cave, and he would block anyone else from coming in. The other, right? This is probably the origins of clan systems, different clans, which is very important because clans, the system of clans is very important because if you have cousins marrying within the same clan or children, or I should say men and women in the same clan, what you're going to have issues with genetics. And you're probably going to have diseases or different abnormalities or something. So, wait, is that a word? Abnormalities? Hold on. Let me think of the word. I'm sorry. Anyone can help me there? I guess genetic issues you're gonna have, and diseases and developmental issues. So we get, oh, here it is. Is Taino language still passed down? You got it. Taino language, it is still passed down. Very important. I'm gonna dedicate future shows to that. There's different yukayekes that are dedicated to the language and have written books on this and dictionaries. We'll get into that in the future. Definitely. Good question. Good one. Taino language. A lot of people have been asking about that. So if you're not part of a yukayeke, I will gladly help you with that. Great question. Thank you, Mahekan. So here's the thing. This is probably the origins of tribal societies, what we're talking about now, ancestrally. And these are beautiful stories handed down. One day, Mako Kael, according to the story, came late one day. He came so late that it disrupted the order of who came in, who came out, whatever. And then the sun was rising, right? Rising from the south, and boom! It caught Mako Kael and it turned him into stone. So it seems like the sun was very powerful for our ancestors. So powerful that if you don't do your job correctly, something is going to happen to you. And in this case, Mako Kael, he turned into stone. Okay? I'm going to stop there because I'm throwing a lot of stuff out. I'm going to go into this whole human migration that our ancestors had these beautiful stories about. And next time we talk, we're going to talk about Wahayona. So I find it amazing, if anyone has any questions, that our ancestors, when Panay was asking them about spirituality, about God, they immediately went into these stories, you know. So if you're taking notes, Yaya Ed, wife, an unknown wife of Yaya. And then you have Zeminan, Mako Kael, the three brothers. And then you have this, did I say Mako Kael? Zeminan, the three brothers. Then you have Mako Kael. Now there's more characters coming. And this is what People who study myths and teach myths, these are like the story of the gods, the story of the super beings, you see in the scriptures and other writings. So this is the first era, cycle one, okay, that we call the sacred beings. A lot of people call gods, Yaya, Yaya Ed, wife. Oh, I forgot one. Itiwaka Hobaba, her four children, right? If you look up the book, The Cave of the Hagwa, Dr. Arroyo Stevens, he compares our stories to different traditions and stuff. And these different traditions, we match up to them. For many people, Yaya represent Kronos in the Greek mythology. Kronos represents the manifestation of time as we know it. And then Yaya Ed, that falling, that rebellious sun. Deminon could represent well, we're going into that tonight, but it could be like the first Behike, the first spiritual being that passed down these medicines, because he was sick, the wounded healer, right? And then so on. Man, there's so much you can really go into Deminon. My father's bloodline runs with Taino, while my mother is Northern Cree. Oh man, that's awesome, man. One of the indigenous tribes of Canada. That's right, First Nations, Northern Cree. Awesome. When they were doing DNA genetics, a lot of the Tainos were doing genetics and DNA, 23andMe and Ancestry. And it seems like that Clovis child that was found in Montana, 90% of the modern Taino match with Clovis. And I know Clovis is way up north. So definitely we have a lot of relations with the northern tribes, But that's a different video there for people who are into genetics. But thank you for sharing that. I don't know if I pronounced your name right, Mahekan. Mahekan. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful relationship there, Taino and Northern Cree. So so Montana, the Clovis baby, I think he was like what, 6 years old. I think the bones were. I mean, it was of a child. So 90% of the modern Taino has like this. You can look it up on. If you download your DNA, GEDmatch, GEDmatch.com. You can compare your DNA with the Clovis DNA. Highly controversial because the natives didn't want that DNA to be done, and it was done. So, but it gives us some insight. So the stories I just shared with you tonight, for me, that's where we start our history. Not 900, 1000 CE. It starts there. Those oral stories. And there's more stories, man. The next time I'm gonna do this live next week, I'm gonna talk about the Wahayona, the first human leader. Seems like he was like a second generation cacique, Behike / Behike. If anyone has any questions so far, but I just want to just share with you again, like when Columbus, his main goal was to divide us. So he needed to learn how we thought, what we believed in, so he can separate us. And he did a little good. He tried his best, but he failed at the end. Because we're still here. I don't see him around. I don't see his descendants around. So I think we did a better job surviving, So Yaya. You guys gotta ingrain these names into your existence. Yaya Ed. Itiwaka Hubaba, Yaya wife. What else? Bayamanako. We're going to get into that in the future, but Bayamanako, we can see he's like the ancient grandfather, right? The ancient one, the grandfather. We know our grandfather. So, in these northern tribes, hey, what's up, Manani? In these northern tribes, southern tribes, all tribes, indigenous tribes throughout the world, they always talk about, our grandmother, our grandfather, Mother Earth. As Taino, we have these stories, man. So I give a little kudos to the Spanish for writing this down. Actually, the original text we lost. It's gone. So we got a translation of the Italian, um, Peter Martyr, who was listening to these stories. I'm very connected to my traditions, medicine, teachings, and culture on my Cree side, but my father wasn't around to share my other side, and I know my introductions into the Cree. I'm wondering if you knew how. Wow. To introduce yourself, where you're from, and clan and Taino. Wow. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing your lineage. Um, my lineage it begins with my paternal side. I was raised by my great grandmother, who in the Caribbean tradition is called spiritualism or spiritismo. So she communicated with the dead. She helped raise me. She actually cured me from colic disease and from eczema, which caused me to cry 24 hours. Not even my own parents could um, console me. I mean, and so she, with her medicine secrets, her ways, she was able to cure me, and we grew in an attachment. It was no one's fault, um, but I remained with my great grandmother, and so growing up, I watched her how she did ceremonies. She always did cleansing ceremonies using the four directions. So whenever she cleaned the home, she always used the four directional ways, which are modern Behikes and medicine people do right now to this day. Uh, Actually, Deminon, the three brothers, that's your four directions right there. So so growing up till my the age of 11 years old, I was able to see her how she did it, how she honored the tobacco, smoke, four directions. Water was important. Feeding the spirits was important. What we call semis. Caribbean folks, we use statues of saints, the disguise. It's what they had. And they still use that in some circles. So that's my original lineage. Now, in 1997, when I wanted to go deep into my spiritual journey and leadership as a Taino spiritual leader, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this. I ended up in Crow Nation. All right. I had some connections that connected me to Crow Nation. And there I met an elder, Irving Singsgood Stewart. And Irving wanted to learn about the Taino ways. A true elder will always ask questions, right? And he was a great listener, so I told him. And one of the things that made him very emotional was when he asked me, "What are your traditions? What was passed down from your ways?" And I said, "Well, Columbus killed the Behikes, he killed the medicine people, he killed the chiefs, he killed a lot of people. Leaders, we still have the plant medicine. There's certain people that can still use the medicine ways to cure people with the plants, massage, bone setters, and so on. They're also visionaries." So he asked about ceremonies, and I told him what I just shared before. But I told him that we had a very sacred ceremony called the Cohoba ceremony. It was a medicine that we consume, and we can travel to the spirit world and come back with answers, with direction. And I told him that unfortunately our most traditional ceremony was lost. Most likely the Behikes were killed, and that was it. The Spanish did write about that, the invaders, about the Cohoba ceremonies, which I want to talk about in the future because that's part of our history. And what happened was, with a tear in his eye, he looked at me. He says, "Today I'm going to show you our first ceremony. I'm going to teach you to bring it to the Taino people, and that's the sweat lodge, the purification ceremony." So I remember that same night, I went into the lodge with him and his son and his people in the tribe, and I learned how to conduct a sweat lodge ceremony. And I learned later on that when a tribe loses their traditions, right, either by war or genocidal campaigns or whatever, it's legitimate that another tribe can share their ceremonies to keep the people alive, to keep their spiritual nourishment. And that's what happened. So believe it or not, this Taino right here, I do sweat lodge ceremonies. Um, in our Taino tradition, there is a story I'm going to share in the next few weeks about Guanara, a place apart to heal, which can be interpreted as sweat lodge ceremony. It seems like this is the most ancient ceremonies that many cultures practice throughout the centuries, including, Russia. The Vikings look like they practiced it and so on. My name is pronounced the same as the Mohegans, but it means wolf in Cree. Wow, awesome, man. The wolf. So, great name, brother. So, yeah, so if you're ever in New York, we're going to do a sweat lodge, a Guanara ceremony. Yep, we practice sweat lodge ceremonies here. It seems, my opinion is that the sweat lodge is definitely something that that's was the first ceremony throughout the world. You know, I forget who it was, what archaeologist, but there was an archaeologist who found a similar sweat lodge structure in the Virgin Islands. I gotta look that up. I promise, in the future I'll get that reference. But they found some kind of structure that was similar to a sweat lodge. Again, these are organic materials that the Spanish probably burned, destroyed. It was ruthless time. When 1492 showed up, you know, our leaders were killed, man, for practicing these traditions. There was no mercy. Even Bartolomé de las Casas, who was a priest, he wrote to the Pope, and he told the Pope, you gotta intervene. We can't hear these confessions anymore. This is brutality. This is genocide. Imagine, this is the high Middle Ages, 1400s, and they're begging the Pope to intervene. Of course, the Pope didn't. So, man, there's a lot to share. So, our history is beautiful, and I wanted to start with these oral history with Yaya Ed. I promise in the future we're gonna break this down. We're gonna try to interpret what does Yaya mean compared to what other tribes, their interpretations in South America. And believe it or not, there's links. There are links. I forgot to mention one character, Gonel. Gonel can be translated as the mute, the silent one. When Deminan and his three brothers were in the ocean, probably in their canoe, after they ran from Yaya, they bumped into Gonel. And Gonel was silent, didn't say a word. So that's something to ponder. Now, before I go tonight, I just want to say that I did at one point in my life practice the Cohoba ceremony. And the Cohoba ceremony is a very sacred ceremony that our ancestors practiced. And I was part of a movement of trying to bring it back into the modern, contemporary Taino way. And I remember I had a vision in one of my Cohoba interactions in the spirit world. And I saw this woman. And this woman had a macana, a war club, right? And it looked like she was going into battle. And in this vision I was seeing in the spirit world, the Spanish were coming with weapons. Now they didn't have war clubs; they had a form of rifle. You know, they used that pellet and what they musket. I always forget the word that they use. Everyone knows the word. Middle Ages, they used this form of rifle. So they had all of these, and they were ready to kill this woman. Now, behind this woman, in my vision, I was assuming it were men, warriors, ready for battle, right? But as I looked closely into my vision, I saw that there were women and children. So with the stick, she was directing the women and children to create a circle, right? And when the Spanish were charging, they created a circle, and they started interlocking their elbows, and they started dancing in unison with the women, the old women, and the children. They were all females, and they were dancing this circle. They were dancing this dance in a circle, and I heard a song. They were singing. This woman with the stick was singing a song. Let me try to see what this. I'm gonna try to. It's funny because she was right in front of me, and it was like a spinning motion as she went around. She came back, right in front of me, went around, like it became so fast, like, and I kept hearing something like well, and I'm hearing this sound, this circle, like, oh, it froze again. Damn. Can you guys see me? Did I unfreeze? See, the song froze it. So it was like, so the circle was going fast, fast, fast. It was like, it was pretty intense. And the Spanish could not penetrate the circle. They tried. It was shooting, they were throwing stuff, and they could not penetrate the circle. So let me do this again. When it first started, the circle was slow, the dance. And I just heard this. I saw this. It was like a tornado. That's what I was actually seeing, a tornado. And what I learned from that vision was, if the people can only stay together, interlocking, the unity of the people, no entity, not even the Spanish invaders, can destroy us. They can't touch us. So the speed, it was like light speed. It cannot penetrate that circle, but they had to be so unified. So I never forgot about that vision. No, I try to draw. I I I, uh, I asked artificial intelligence to help me on a drawing, and I posted it on YouTube to later. I think earlier today, of what I saw. And if you see this photo, you can see it on my posting. You can see these Spanish invaders with no shirts on, and they're ready to attack. And there she is with a stick, you know. But the stick wasn't a weapon. It was like a directional stick to tell the people where to stand, you know. And I saw this woman who was kind of mixed blood, as I'm looking at her, the first thing that came to my mind was she's the daughter of a Taino woman who was raped, and she's the offspring of this rape. And instead of fighting with violence, she fought with the ancient ways of the dance, the circle dance. So sometimes when I do these ceremonies, when I sing, I try to sing that song. It's really powerful if you meditate on that. You know, imagine yourself in a circle with your ancestors, and then in the middle of this circle is a stick. You know, the center of the universe, the pole that contained the bones of Yagaed. Just focus on that. Then when you lose that breath, just breathe out, and then breathe back in, and again. when you lose breath, just breathe out. So, okay, had to leave for a second and come back. It wouldn't let me leave comments on the screen. Oh man, I'm sorry. If you have any comments, you can always you can write it now if you can, or you can write me at Taino Funhouse at gmail.com. So it's very important that you take time every day to sit with your ancestors, okay, your bloodline. Very important. This is what our ancestors did. We call it ancestral veneration and ancestral honoring. So when Yaya put his son in the gore, his bones, and when he told his wife, asked his wife to bring it back down, that's ancestral veneration. You know, you're honoring the ancestors because you are them. Because you're carrying their legacy, their DNA. Is there a way we can connect someday through Facebook? Yeah, you can look me up at Taino Funhouse in Facebook. Taino Funhouse. So yeah, always connect with those ancestors. You know, because this is where you're truly gonna learn about history, our ways, by communicating. Remember, we're spiritual beings in a human existence. In future shows, I'm definitely gonna relate how to do meditation in a Taino way. This is a beautiful what do you call it, frog that was carved by our ancestors. You know, you look at these beautiful works of art. You know, that's different. You can see the almost like alien like, right? Or star people like. See the carvings? This is a bone structure. This is one of the semis, Obiegwapian, the dog deity. Oh, hold on, let me see. Now this is the backside of an elder. Most likely it was remember I told you about Bayamanako? You know. Later on I'm gonna explain what these mean. These are beautiful, the manaya, the axe. Look how beautiful polished those were. You can still find them in the villages. I mean, in the towns. Hey, this Turtle Mother. Talking about Turtle Island, right? This Turtle Mother. That's our mom. That's our Eve, right? If you're gonna use the historical text. They also make these beautiful carvings out of wood, and they will turn into this dark wood polishing, you know. And that's another semi, a sacred being, by Brahma, the fire. Hey, remember I told you about Itiba Kahubaba? Here's a beautiful one of Itiba Kahubaba. There you go. She's giving birth. Also can be interpreted as baby, right? Got some cool stuff here. And this is stuff that the women created. You know, they had no power tools. This is all handmade, right? You know, it's beautiful. These are amulets. It's all handmade. Not too long ago, here in New York, we played the Batu game, and this is a Batu belt made out of stone. We still don't know much about these, but most likely the ball will hit the stone in the hip, and they'll ricochet. Man, our ancestors were deep, man. They knew what it was about. There's some other beautiful carvings there out of stone and clay. That's a nice stone. This is kind of cool, a cajoba spoon. Put the cajoba in there. You know? So, which was a powder. Oh, they say tiba kahubaba. I mean, not tiba kahubaba. Yeah, wait, what did I say? Tiba kahubaba. Wait, hold on a second. There she go. You know, you can find this mother. You can find her all over the world. You know, for all you folks that either are Jewish descendant, or a Christian and follow the Hebrew scriptures, when you read about the prophets were very angry people, very angry leaders. They always talk about, do not worship idols. You know, you see it, you hear it in churches. You only serve one God. Pray to only one God, not idols. I believe it was like 8 years ago. There was a huge discovery in Israel, and they found an ancient village during the time of the prophets. I forget what year. Definitely in the before the Common Era. And guess what they found? You can look it up, Google it. They found Itiwa Kahubaba, the mother, the bloody aged woman, the mother. So it seems like this was universal. And this is what the prophets were angry about. We were honoring our mother, Mother Earth, our sacred mother. And it's universal, man. You know? Don't let anyone tell you that you're honoring idols. Hey, we're honoring a sacred being. You know? So, next time I'll have more photos for you and stuff. But if anyone has any more questions before I call it a night, man, thank you for taking the time on a Friday night, man. I wish I had some food, you know, to share with you guys. So my aim of today was to give you a little slice of Taino worldview. Can I borrow $5? Yeah, right. Hey, can I borrow $10? So yeah, man. Oh, also, I want you, before I leave, I want you guys to do this. I want you to do this. Come in. You know, remember I mentioned about the circle and the dot in the middle? That's Atabe. That's our Mother Earth. That's our mother. The circle and the dot in the middle. In the future shows, I'm going to dedicate some time to that concept of the circle and the dot in the middle. You know, I just want you to visualize this. Draw a circle, dot in the middle, draw the cross, or if you feel more happy with X, those are your 4 directions. We're physical, we're mental, we're emotional, and we're spiritual. And in the middle, that dot is the life force, or what the Jedis would say, the force, right? And that's what makes the wheel spin. What a lot of tribes say, the medicine wheel. To make that wheel spin, like in my vision, they're dancing, it's the will to live. And that's what gets you up in the morning. So whatever you do in your life, when you get up in the morning, you don't have to get up. But what makes you get up? And that's that dot in the middle, the life force. This is where the baby is born. And this is where the penetration occurs. Okay? And I won't be too graphic, but that circle with the dot in the middle, it's life. Keep the circle going. If there's anyone out there who feels despair, who feels like that wheel is not spinning anymore for them, please hit me up. TainoFunhouse@gmail.com. We're going to try to get that wheel turning, okay? Got to keep that wheel going. Pay attention to your physical self, like eating fish, drinking water. Mental, keep those stories alive. Focus on your worldview. What do you believe in? Emotional, let those emotions out. Don't keep them inside. Okay? And then the spiritual. What's your spiritual life like? Okay? I'll see you next Friday, 10:30 p.m. I would love to hear from you. TainoFunhouse@gmail.com. Want to reconnect? Please do so. I'm planning to do some Zooms in the future so we can all see each other. But for now, I'm just gonna keep this going here. Thank you all for listening, for watching, And any future watcher out there, thank you for tuning in and downloading the show. I'll be back, all right? This is DJ Bejique Sana Cody. Me here, you there. Tainos everywhere. Peace out, man. Appreciate you. Keep that circle alive.